Good evening. Thank you for taking your time out to attend this webinar. We have Chef Vikas Seth here, Culinary Director of Embassy Leisure. So we were lucky enough to get Chef for a demo. He's a master of Mexican cuisine. So I'm going to play a small video of Chef to sort of show who he is, his journey, and where he's come from. So yeah, I'll just start off the video, guys.
Let's do it.
Chef, can you see?
Yeah.
My first experience with the Mexican food happened when I was on a cruise liner. We used to sail to Alaska and we used to sail to Acapulco and back to San Juan. So during that time, I think I got accustomed to Mexican food so much, and I think the connection started from there. I worked for 5 years on cruise liner. So you can imagine the amount of time I spent. Sometimes I've calculated, I think I spent more than 6 months in Mexico, which really helped me today. You know, when I have to recreate or I have to give my touches, I take some of the taste profiles which I can remember. The places near to the port used to be very, very casual. It was more like a small cantina to just go dine in and come out. But the food used to be tremendously outstanding. You go to Acapulco, the tacos is the first thing I think you're going to be looking at. It will come with the different toppings. It will come with the different salsas. Our aim was to get into European food, and suddenly the plans changed, and instead of doing extension to European, the company decided that why don't we explore Mexican food. I was at that time excited, saying that okay, this will be something different, which has not been explored, and not a Tex-Mex Mexican. It was authentic Mexican what we were talking about. So after working with two fantastic Mexican chefs in India, and they moved back, I went looking for mentors. And when I met Chef Elena de la Vega, I think that was the final connect when she decided to do a culinary trip to Oaxaca. Myself and my wife decided to join her, and then meeting Chef Dinah Kennedy, the living legend of Mexican food. And I think it is everything already written, and I have to take this forward. So going to the Mexican homes and seeing how the cooking is done, and cooking with the Mexican chefs and seeing how they are making their own cheese was a lot of learning, like bringing queso fresco. It's such a simple way of making it, but the dish is delicious. Even the ash cooking, for that matter, making roasted tomato salsa in the charcoal was really interesting. The way it is normally done, I would say in a Tex-Mex style, and when you go into Mexico and you see how it is done, it is quite different. So we're bringing a slice of it out here.
Yes, Chef. So that was the video. So guys, I hope you could see the video, and that was a brief introduction about Chef Vikas. So without further ado, I'll just hand over the session. We've been lucky enough for Chef to make time for us. So Chef is also, going to be very kind to us and demonstrate a couple of dishes. Initially we just planned for one, but I think Chef is being very kind today, and he's doing the second dish. So Chef Vikas, over to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, first of all, for having me. And this is really a time which is nobody can predict what's going to happen next. But before we start the session, I would surely say that we need to get going and do what we do. We don't need to stop that. So any further talk about what's happening around, we will not do that. So we are going to be talking about a bit about Mexican cooking and a bit about what we have been doing at our restaurant at Sanchez, Indiranagar and UBC city. We are present at both the locations with Mexican food. And then we have Sriracha, which is our Asian brand, which is also present in UP City and at Indranagar. So about the Mexican food, and today being the Avocado Day, so it was very, very right to do a class, a kind of a session wherein I can share some of my knowledge with you guys, and also do a quick recipes, one with avocado. Happy avocado to all of you. And the one we are going to be doing with the tomato salsa. Yeah. So this is slightly different. It's not a normal way of doing the salsa. This is done by roasting it. So I'm going to be talking about that. But very, very first thing about the Mexican cuisine. Of course, most of you are students, and in today's time, I'm sure you're referring to your Google and all the information available on the net. Having said that, sometimes you might get confused because there's information which is very contradictory. Somebody will say this is right, another guy will say, that process is right. Let's not get into that. So let's talk about the Mexican cuisine in a pure way. So Mexican food, you can see in front of you, it's constitute three main, ingredients basically. One is the corn. I'm going to talk about that in detail. If you can see, this is the dry white corn. Okay. Second is beans. Okay. So these are the beans, also called white rajma out here. So these are not the red rajma, this is the white one. And of course, there are black beans, which we use a lot as well. And then, interestingly, we have the chilies. Now, this chilies, if you can see, I'm going to pick each one and give you a little bit about the chili, which is the base of this cuisine. So, corn, then the beans, and then the chilies. So, these three things is what Mexican food is all about. And of course, it's a legacy. The Mexican food, actually, when you go, it's been basically passed on from generation to generation, very similar the way in India you see, like, we get recipes from our grandmother, which gets passed on to the next generation, and the next generation will pass on to the next generation. So Mexican food is also done in a very family way. There are a lot of recipes which are more like grandmother's recipes, which are being explored further. With changing time, there will be few changes which happen. So very first, before we go to the chilies, the corn, Mexican believe that, corn is everything. Corn is life. Corn is birth. Corn is also death. So this is the white corn, what you see in front of my, in my hand. I really don't know if you can see it properly. Let me bring it up a bit forward. Okay. So guys, this is the corn, what we use to make masa. Yeah. Now, this is the most important or basic Mexican cooking is all about corn, and how to use the corn. That's a major process. It's a process called nixtamalization, okay, or nixtamal. So what is nixtamal? Basically is, it's a process wherein this corn, the dried corn, which is basically soaked and blanched with the limestone. Okay, the limestone is the tuna what we have in a pan, a similar thing, a little bit of that. You blanch it, and then what happens to the corn? Corn will get to this stage. You can see that. Yeah, the corn is there, and what happened to the skin of the corn? It's a bursted open. Okay, but you can still see the skin. Yeah, slightly yellowish, dark yellowish color. So that is the skin of the corn. Now, what we do to that is, yeah, keep it here. What we do to that is basically we peel it off. Now, if you can see this, it's totally white. Yeah. So this corn in a dry form, and this is the corn which is ready to be made into masa. You must have heard, if you talk about Mexican food, you will always hear about masa. So what is masa? Masa is basically the dough which is made with the corn, okay, the dried corn which has been soaked, and the process of nixtamalization which happens wherein you use limestone to burst open the skin, then you remove the skin under the water with hand. It's a very tedious method, it's a very process oriented method, and then you come with this corn, and this corn gets into a mincer. So once this gets into the mincer, what comes out, because if you see, this is slightly moist. So what will happen? What comes out is actually a dough. Okay, it's a moist, moist dough which comes out, and that is maza, and that maza will be used to make tortillas. So these are the tortillas. So of course this is a blue one. So you also have a blue corn, you have a yellow corn, you also have a red corn. In it's not very common, but we do get the blue and yellow commonly available. So this is the basic about maza. Very, very important if you want to know about maza. It's very different from makai ka atta. So makai ka atta is not maza, or it's not going to be a substitute for making the dough. Of course, at a home level, a lot of people use that, but that's a different process altogether. The real process, the real way is making the maza by using these steps. Actually, it's good that I'm at the restaurant and I'm showing you. I was just thinking if we have to do a cooking class at the restaurant, there are quite a number of ingredients to bring in, and it's always challenging to show. Okay, so that we have done. Now about the chilies. Now, interestingly, they are close to so many chilies, in fact, in Mexican cuisine, that is used very wisely in making the preparation. So what we have done is we have out here 6 different chilies, because that will constitute the taste part of it. And the most common one is the chipotle. Okay, the dried chipotle, I'm sure all of you must have heard about it. Now, this is the dried chipotle, which we use to make a base called adobo, or a chipotle in adobo sauce. And basically, what is this chili? See this? This is chipotle, and this is fresh jalapenos. Now, this fresh jalapenos, the red ones, are commercially dried in the ovens, okay, to get to this level of dryness, to get dried chipotle. And chipotle in today's time is not only used in Mexican cuisine, it is used in a lot of international cooking as well. So that's a very tasty chili. And to make it tasty further, actually there is a way, or there is a process of doing it. The process of doing that is basically you take this out, you basically cut this out, and then we toast it. Okay, we toast it on a pan, like this pan. We are going to be toasting it slightly, just to sweat it without adding any oil or anything, just to warm it. So when you warm it, what happens? The skin of it becomes a little bit palatable to loosen out the flavor. And then we soak in warm water. We soak in warm water. And for making the adobo, we add onion, we add also tomatoes, we add a bit of salt, and then we boil it along with a little bit of stock. And then what you get is basically a pot full of flavor. There is chili, there's tomato, there's onion, there's a bit of cumin. So you have a lot of flavor, and that gets blended. And what you have is a chipotle base. Now this base is basically used in a lot of preparations in Mexican food. In fact, chipotle is the most loved one. At least the one, very thin. Don't go by its size. It's very, very pungent in the sense it's actually very, very spicy as well. Not like habanero. This is arbol. Okay, this is the arbol chili. Then we have, okay, the most used chili, Wahio. Okay, this is not spicy, but it's flavorsome. So we used for our Wahio lamb, or you must have heard about barbacoa. Okay, the lamb which is cooked very similarly. The way we have tandoors, they have special kind of grounds where they cook this, and they use this chili. In fact, we also cook one of our preparation. So what we do, we make a paste out of it. Then the same way, the way I explained to you, we toast it, put it into warm water, but we don't add tomato and onion to this. So we make a paste of chili, and then we marinate our lamb. and that lamb get wrapped in banana leaf, and then it's in the oven for almost 2 to 3 hours in a very slow temperature. So you can imagine, the lamb is getting cooked very slowly, and it will be, kind of very flavorsome because you have a chili which is not spicy but very flavorsome. So when you pull it, when you open it up, once it's cooked, it will be like a pulled lamb. We just need to use fork, and you have your pulled lamb in front of you. Another chili, the pasilla. Okay, this is also called negro. It's a black in color, and this is used for making our beans. The beans which I showed you. So when we make our refried beans, we flavor it with a lot of basically oil. We don't use lard at our restaurant, so we use oil, and then there is chili, there's garlic to it, and then there is a paste made out of this pasilla chili. Another one, another favorite chili. This is ancho. This is used for moles. Okay. Now this cuisine, Mexican cuisine, as I said, it's based on these chilies and the corn and the bean. If you know that, you can create anything under the sun, in the sense, your version of it. Yeah, and that's what we do at the restaurant. But there are a lot of authentic dishes as well on the menu, like the moles and garnachas. We do lambre. So there are different dishes on the menu. Next one, as this is our green chili. Okay, we use quite a lot of this. This is very similar to a Mexican serrano. So that's a good one, and we know the taste of it. There is no problem, and we use quite a lot. And then the jalapenos, the red and the green. Okay, so this is about our chilies, and this is about the base what we use. Apart from that, there are going to be a lot of avocados. And now let me show you some chips. Okay, so these are the yellow one. I really don't know if a lot of you have seen the blue. Let me show this one. So this has a bluish tinge to it. Yeah, if you see a very light blue color, there's no addition of color as such. It's the corn is blue, and that's the reason you get this finished color. Yeah, very interesting and very tasty as well. So we have talked about all our ingredients, and now we're going to be doing a quick recipe. Yeah, of making a salsa. Mostly I see, at homes, or maybe you can say at a lot of other places, the salsa people have been making has been using raw ingredients like raw tomatoes, raw onion. Of course, you can do that, but that will be a very different fresh salsa. What I'm making today for you guys is, it's very interesting. You can in fact make it at home. It's not difficult at all, because we're using ingredients which are very, very common. So the ingredients what we're using tomatoes. Yeah. So the only thing is, you have to choose tomatoes which are very ripe, very red, more juicy. So you want your salsa to be, having moisture. So that's what we have selected, and we are roasting it on the pan. You can even roast it in the oven, normally at 200 degree, 220 for 20 minutes, and you will get a very nice, brownish skin on the tomato. So that will be really wonderful, and of course very tasty as well at the same time. Then what we are using is onion, which we have charred, and then the garlic with the skin, and then I have used one jalapeno, 2 green chilies. That's about it. And then once this is done, this normally would take like 20 minutes, so I've roasted a little bit in advance. Just finishing with a little bit of oil at this moment. And of course, we're going to add the salt later as well. I'm just adding a little bit of salt on tomato. And I'm going to pick it up. The onion, we're going to remove the skin of the garlic and the onion. And let this get charred more, it will be more tasty and more smoky. Okay, so let's see how we're going to do this. This is called mocajites. Mocajites, this is basically mortar and pestle. And if you see, there are a lot of documentaries on this as well online. And normally, It's in the mountains of Mexico, which is hand chiseled. You know, if you see some of the videos in the Discovery, they will show you. And that's what we use for making our special salsas. Okay, now pre-COVID, you can say we used to do live making of guacamoles as well. Yeah. So this is a modern pestle which actually gets seasoned, because when you keep on making, you know, your salsas, your guacamole, it is as good as any pan. You know, when you cook more, it gets more flavors up. In fact, you can put it on the flame. You can cook in this as well. Yeah, it's a good apparatus. So this is smoking really nicely, and that's what we want. And we'll put this one off. Okay, so let's go with the onion. So if you have any questions, surely you can ask. Maybe we can answer, or we can take it even at the end. Yeah. I will continue with this. Okay. So I'm adding the onion. I've cut this up into small pieces, and then the garlic. Okay. We are removing the skin. So we're just adding the really nicely charred garlic to this one. So, any of you has done this salsa in a similar way? Do let me know. In fact, we do this kind of salsa at the restaurant, and we have a variety of it. We have, we make salsa with chipotle, we make salsa with the habanero, and of course, this is the roasted tomato salsa. And that recipe is also very, very similar to this one. Just a minor step as we make in quantities. So when we have to do in big quantities, it won't be possible to do it in a pan, because we actually require almost 5 to 10 kgs of tomato to do it. So that is done in the oven. Okay, so the garlic is done, the onion is done. The next step is to get the tomatoes and jalapenos, okay, and the chili as well.
Is there any particular type of tomato that you would recommend?
Okay, so here we go. We're just cutting this into small pieces. It's still hot. I really don't know if you can see, the smoke is really coming out. Okay, and this is the spiciness portion which is going in, the moka, and the next one is the tomatoes. Okay, really nicely charred. I'm just adding it directly. Okay, I think you can see a part of the tomato. I'm going to just cut it up slightly smaller, so it's easier for me when I'm muddling it. So this is a chunkier salsa, what we are going to be finishing. Okay, a little bit of salt, a bit of olive oil, and we're going to be just blending it together on the stone. Of course, you can do it in your blenders as well, but then the result will be very different. Yeah, it will be like a smooth paste, or you can, pulse it less. You can still get something similar, but nothing like this. When you make in your moka, the flavor, what you're getting, wow, so simple, but very, very tasty. Yeah.
Chef, there's a question.
Yes.
They're asking, do you need to peel the tomatoes?
No, we are not peeling the tomato. It's very important to use the skin. Okay, this is no blanching in this case. A very good question. In fact, you get a lot of flavor from your smokiness. What you got it when you are charring your tomato. Yeah. So this is really, really tasty salsa. And if you remove the skin out, the taste is gone.
Okay, so no peeling, no de-seeding.
No peeling. Only you have to remove the skin of the onion. You
Okay.
have to remove the skin of the garlic, and that is important.
And what about the seeds, chef?
Seeds we are using all. So as you guys know, seeds have a lot of spiciness for the chili. If you're talking, that all goes in. You need something really pungent, really spicy, really flavorsome, and this salsa in particular. Okay, another very important thing, when you're asking about spiciness, there are a lot of questions asked about Mexican food being spicy. Actually, Mexican food is not necessarily spicy. As you saw, what I shared with you, the chilies, all are not spicy. Yeah, habanero is very, very spicy. Chipotle is actually, because we add a little bit sourness to it as well. It is tasty and you can say medium spicy kind of a thing. Other chilies are more to give flavor. So everything in Mexican cuisine is not spicy, but yes, it is very similar to like Indian food, wherein you get a lot of flavors, a lot of spices which are getting used for flavors, not only for the heat. Okay, so this is ready, and I need to taste, and tell you how it's tasting. Yeah. I wish we were at the college. Maybe that
Perhaps when the situation is much better, chef.
No, I'm actually ex-IHM Mumbai. So that was when you guys met me, in the sense, Ronald, if he's...
Yeah, he's there with us.
So when he was messaging me, I was remembering IHM Mumbai, when I did a few classes and with all the students, the energy is very different,
Yeah.
On Zoom, it is great. That's a new normal. But when we are, face to face, I'm sure, guys, that will come back soon.
Yeah, nothing like the real.
Yeah. So now for the tasting. Okay. Wow. Okay, let me bring it close. Yeah. I don't think so you can see much. Okay, you can see a bit of it. You can see the specks of some chilies as well, the seeds of the chili, and then the tomato getting, nicely mixed up. So let's see how it's tasting. Wow. Is it spicy? For me, it's spicy and very tasty. Okay. And now, as I said, I wish you guys were there and I could have given you with the chips, but for now, I'm tasting on your behalf. It's super. Okay, so this is done. Next. So the next is going to be what we are doing today. We are doing actually a dish with avocado at the restaurant. And let me explain to you a little bit about this cheese. Bringing it up. So in the video, I'm sure some of you must have seen it. So this is the cheese. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's very, very simple to make actually. But if you see all around, this is like an artisan cover. And I'm going to open it and show you one more time. And how this is done. Actually, my mentor chef taught me during the trip to Mexico how to make it. And then, we bought this artisan molds in the local market in Oaxaca, and I brought it from there. So if you see, you see these marks on the side?
Yeah, the rigid.
Yeah. So at the restaurant, what we do, we actually serve you a wedge of this, a queso fresco, and we serve it with the chipotle. What I shared with you, just chipotle, a very nice base made out of it, and then it comes with the bolillo bread. That's a Mexican bread which is done with beer, or you can have it with the chips. And again, it's freshness, all about making it fresh, making it almost every other day because it's a fresh cheese. So making process is actually, if you go to see, it's very similar to the way we do our cottage cheese. There's only 1 or 2 steps which are different, which I'm going to share with you, and you guys can try and let me know if it works for you. If it doesn't work, then come back to the restaurant and see for yourself. So what we do, the way you do for your, I said cottage cheese, so you have your milk, preferably high-fat milk, and then we add a little bit of lime juice. So once the milk is split, you're going to be straining it. The whey will go out. The solid part will be kept in a muslin cloth for some time. You can press it also at the same time. So you can take out all the water out, rest it in the muslin cloth for say half an hour. That's it, not beyond that. And then, okay, then we take that up in one of your vessels or any of your, we use GN pan, and then we massage that. Now that's the tricky part, massaging, kind of a solid milk portion with sea salt. So when you add the sea salt to it and massage it together, if you overdo it, it will split. It will become more like a split curd kind of a situation. So you need to be gentle at the same time tough. So that's the only trick of making this up. And it is still moist. Okay, it's not totally drained out kind of a thing. It's still moist. So once that is done, that moist portion or the moist cheese, after a bit of massaging, goes into a mold like this. Yeah. And then we basically actually pour it. At that time, it's more like pouring kind of a, flowing kind of a situation. It is not very, very liquidy, but it is, you can say semi-thick. Yeah. And then we are pouring into this mold and keeping it in the fridge for 8 hours. And that's about it. Yeah. And actually, if you see, this mold absorbs the moisture. Yeah. So once it absorbs the moisture, and that's what you get. I just showed you earlier. That's what you get. And in fact, it's again a very, very tasty, simple daily cheese what we have. Okay. So coming back to what we are making now, we are making a quick guacamole, and which is done with the queso. As I said, we have this queso with us. Now about our local avocados. I'm sure a lot of you staying in Bangalore have access to this. It's easily available, and it's the best thing to actually have to increasing your immunity. And of course, all of you must have heard so much about avocado. I think in last few years, avocado toast has become a big, not only on social media, but at homes as well. So everybody wants to get hold of this green gold, as it's called. And in Mexico, in fact, if you see some of the series or some of the news which keeps on popping up, it's green gold. Basically, it gets exported to even US from Mexico, and it's a big source of income in Mexico. And it is full of nutrition. It is full of omega fat, which is good for you. It has a number of vitamins. So having said that, what you need is a ripe avocado. Because if you don't have a ripe avocado, it's a waste. So what do you do with it? So normally when you buy in normal markets, you will not get to this level. Yeah? This is perfectly ripe, and this is still to ripe. Yeah. So this is green, and this is, you see, it's purple. Not necessarily every avocado will turn to this color. Not necessary. Okay. Now we have another one. If you see, this is also, but it has a little bit of greenish tinge to it. This is, if you see, yeah,
A little green.
yeah. So these are price, you can say, things in today's time, and if you can get that, nothing like it. And avocado actually is blessed with it. In fact, the place where I stay in Bangalore, I have 2 trees in the same building. It wasn't planned, but it happened, during that time. So this one, okay, we can use this as well. We have actually sliced this, and we are taking the little bit of blemishes what you normally have in the avocado. You're taking that out, and then simply slice it, and then again simple cut, and then we use a small spoon to just take this out, the flesh out. That's the green gold, which is getting into the mocha. Lovely. Can you guys see this?
We can see
Okay,
that.
maybe not everything you can see, but still, I'm sure you can see. I'll bring it up. I'll bring it closer to you guys. Let me put this up first. Before I do the mixing, because see, in this preparation, if you see, there's only one step to get the avocado right. And if you don't get the avocado right, then your whole dish is gone. And if you are not able to find a ripe avocado, then also, it's going to be challenging for you to make a good wok or anything with avocado. So very important is ripening it up. So what you can do at home, in case it's a raw, you can wrap it up in newspaper and even keep in your rice bins. That is good. The second trick is, when you have your bananas, actually, it says that, we don't do it at the restaurant, but at home, I have tried it. You keep it near to your bananas. Bananas emit some kind of gases, which actually help in ripening your avocados faster. So it did work, but I was lucky to have a good avocado anyway. So that's one thing you need to check. Okay, we are adding more.
So, Chef, I have a question regarding the avocado. There's many a time wherein you make a mistake of picking up an avocado which isn't ripe enough. What is the recourse then? Where you've cut it and you've realized, oh no, it's raw or it's not, ripe enough. What do you do then?
I'll tell you frankly, I'm saying this is bound to happen at a home level. What we do now, pre-COVID, we used to actually use close to 1,500 kgs of avocado in a month, which is very, very big quantity from a restaurant point of view. Yeah. So we have a trolley, and trolley has baskets, and the baskets are like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5 kind of a situation, wherein we know, okay, we get everything raw. We don't normally buy anything ripe. We ripe it ourselves. And normally from a raw to ripe, it will take like 2 to 3 days. Again, depending on, you need to feel your avocado. What they say, I'll show you. You need to feel your avocado. Yeah. So, when I'm feeling it, this is not bad, but certain sides are very, very raw. Certain sides are almost done. So this is not ready. Wherein this one, which is already pre-cut, and if I feel it, it is almost ready, but I'm going to cut it now. But this is also, seems like it's not fully done. But the reason is this is a very thick skin one. So you have some thick skin avocados, which becomes another challenging part, that you feel that it is not done, but actually it is pretty much ready inside. So that challenge stays with most of the local produce what you get in the market. So you need to actually check before you're cutting it. But now, if you have cut this up, what are you going to do with it? That is a very, very challenging question. So let me give you one trick. I'm sure everybody wants to know that trick. But it's not a good trick at the same time. I'm giving you, because once you open and you realize it's now hard, what to do with it? Right? Now you can't have that raw piece of avocado. Okay, what do you do? Put it like this back and put in the microwave. Try it out. Okay. It's not the best result. It's not the best option. Okay, as I said, it's not the ideal situation. We don't do it at the restaurant. We are blessed with, as I told you, we get quantities which are big, and that's a house trick. Okay, because you don't want to, your price ingredient, you don't want to throw it, or you want to still try it. You might get it right. But that's the challenge. I agree with you guys. That's the challenge. Once you cut, what do you do about it? In fact, when it's hard, a lot of people at home, I have, in fact, a lot of people I know, they actually, before cutting, put in the micro at home. So, they don't want to take a chance also of cutting it up. They say we want it a little bit soft, so we do this. So 1.5 I've used. This I'm going to keep it back for our preparation at the restaurant. And we will get some ingredients for making this up. You want to give me some queso? We will not spoil this one if you have just a small quantity. I can just put it as a garnish. So guys, so this is basically avocado which has been very nicely removed, and now fork. You just need to fork it, and that's about it. Okay, let me bring it closer to you guys. Yeah, see the yumminess. What do you see? Really, really green and fresh. That's what we are talking. We're talking about being fresh. We're talking about being easygoing. We're talking about using local. Okay, and that's it. And now this base is ready to make anything. I would actually use it just like this. Of course, a little bit salt, lemon juice, olive oil, and olive oil we add if it's not enough creamy. Yeah. If it's creamy enough, you can even reduce the olive oil quantity. But in this case, we need to add a little bit. So I'm adding a little bit of salt. Yeah. I'm using scallions, the spring onions. A little bit of that. There is a bit of chili chopped. Now that is up to personal preferences, and very important. This is the cilantro, coriander, which is getting into this, and lemon. The most important part, lemon. What we are adding to this. The more, the better. But again, you don't want it too sour as well. Okay, and a bit of olive oil. And we're going to be finishing it with queso, which I told you. Wow. So simple and very, very healthy and delicious appetizer.
Chef, 2 questions regarding the guacamole. What is the sort of chili you have used? Have you used the good old green chili? Have you used jalapenos? And also, there's another question saying, can we make guacamole from green peas?
Yes, I've done that. I do that as well for some specials. That's the best thing from, I think if you're not in Bangalore, you're blessed to have the avocados. If you're not in Bangalore, then and you still want to, it looks like avocado, but it's going to be green peas. But yes, you can make it tasty. In fact, it's there on my page, a very nice recipe with the jaggery and almost similar ingredients what we add to that, and it comes out very, very delicious as well. So in this, I'm going to taste it, but I'm going to add more flavor to this with our queso. So very simple. The best part is when you add fresh ingredients, what we do is we normally make this at the table. So when you're adding a simple thing like spring onions, I'm getting the crunch of it. And you're getting it why? Because you made it fresh and you're having it next, say, half an hour. That's it. After that, the taste will be very different. Yeah. So these dishes are basically to be done as last as possible. it's not a good idea to make and keep guacamole. But I'll give you a trick as well. If you're going to make and keep it, what can you do? There's a cheese. No? Okay, I can use this one. Okay, I'm going to just clean my knife. Take a little bit of cheese. Okay, guys, I'm just wiping my hand.
Take your time, chef, not a problem.
And I'll be back with my clean knife. Good. Okay, guys. It's time. Okay, how are we going? So we have next, I think, 5 minutes, right?
No, chef, you can take as long as you want. You know, if it's another.
No, guys, I think we'll finish by 5:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
What's the time? 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, we have 10 minutes.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Okay. So what I've done is I have cut a small wedge of this cheese. Yeah. And this is actually my dinner. Of course, it's appetizer, but it's going to be my dinner. So what I'm doing is I'm just breaking this up. If you see, maybe I'll bring it closer for you. That's my snack come early dinner. So it's quite crumbly, but not, not like a feta kind of a thing. Yeah, it is more softer, and that's about it. We're adding big pieces, which we are going to try along with the chips. So this is done nicely, and we're going to garnish it with some cilantro, some chips. Okay, so we have some cilantro here. Thank you. Nice. Oh, we have some microgreens also. So at the restaurant, we are always blessed to have a lot of ingredients which we use.
We're quite lucky in Bangalore with microgreens, with hydroponics being a common thing in the city.
Yes. In fact, we have been growing it ourselves as well at the restaurant. During the tough times, we were growing it ourselves as well. A bit of it. We were doing the mustard actually at that time. Okay, so we are good. Just a little bit dash of olive oil. And let me give you 2 blue and 1 yellow, 1 more yellow, and here we have. Okay, here we go. We're clicking a picture. We are ready. Let me show you.
Chef, what chili was used in this?
Okay. So what I used actually was the green chili in this one. Of course, you can use jalapenos as well. So if you see, this is a very simple, delicious preparation, and it becomes even more better when we are doing in your apparatus. Like I'm using Mukahete. At a home, you can use any of your glass bowls. That will be better. And now the trick is, if you want to keep it for some time, what are you going to do? So you use your whatever bowl what you're making in, try to shift it to a smaller, tighter container, and then on top, just smear a little bit of oil, olive oil, and then you put the cling wrap touching it. So there are less chances of the top getting discolored. Of course, it still gets a little bit off, when you keep it for too long. Otherwise, it is great. Yeah. So we will finish it quickly now. I'm going to just give you some more stories during my travel. A quick one. So before that, let me keep this together so we can have. Okay, so I'm coming. So I have so much more to actually show you guys, because at the restaurant we have a lot of stuff, and this has become a nice way to show you what all happens at the restaurant. Of course, this is your normal corn. Okay, the press. Give me the press also. Let me keep this. Okay, so we are showing you what all we got from Mexico, or what all we have from Mexico, or what we do at the restaurant. Okay, So I was talking about making of tacos at one time. Initially, we talked about the maza. Let me show you the maza. So this is the maza. Yeah, this is the maza dough. Yeah, the atta, what I mean, maza,
Yeah.
and it's used for making. Everybody can see this red thing. Bring it behind. I don't know. Okay, now you can see.
Yeah,
So this is a press. Actually, if you Google it again, you will taco press. This is what they use on the streets in Mexico. You know, when they're making tacos, and tacos are not made and kept normally. They would make it in front of you. So they will take this maza dough. Yeah, of course, we also have the small presses what we use in our kitchen, and then you have a thick plastic sheet. Yeah, and that is used, and you apply a little bit of oil. You make a small dumpling of it, and then you place it, top it, and press it down, and the taco is done that way. Yeah. So this is maybe let's try one. Let's make one taco for you guys.
So you make maza in the house?
Yes. So this is the in-house maza. So we have a lot of recipes. In Indiranagar, it's actually the Thai area. So you have a lot of taco recipes. What we do.
Okay.
That has in-house maza. In fact, we do maza with flavor. So we have actually maza with some beetroot puree. Something is with the spinach puree. Different colors. The natural colors is what we use. Okay. So we have kept this small, not pressing it too much. I don't know how much is visible from there. Maybe I'll bring it closer to you guys.
Yeah, we can see it, chef. It sort of flattened it.
Okay. So that's about it. It's done. So actually, and then we take it out from this, this thick plastic, and then this goes on the, on the griller, basically, to make it. Okay, we'll keep it for our meal. Yes. So this is one part of it, which is very interesting. In fact, we do it live. We used to do it live earlier, not at this moment. And this is another press, which I showed you. It's interesting. It's like a puri press. In fact, you can use puri press to make it. Okay, so this is another interesting, important ingredient in Mexican cooking. This is the chorizo. Yeah. So we have learned from Mexican chefs how to make it. So we make it in house. This is basically pork mince with vinegar, with a lot of chilies. In fact, it has more than 18 ingredients to create the sausage and make it in house. It's very, very interesting. Another very unique ingredient what I have, I'll show you, is this is called ashote. So this ashote is actually a spice. In fact, this is done with the annatto seeds. These are like the seeds which are also used for coloring your lipsticks, the red color. It gives a natural reddish tone. And this has a mix. So it comes as a mix with spices. So anything you make with a pork or anything, any protein, when you make it, you add a little bit of oil juice and it comes out really delicious. So this is another very important spice, you can say, what we use for cooking. And of course, our corn. As I talked about it, you're born with it and you get done with this as well. So that's about it from my side. It was a real pleasure to share
questions from the audience.
Thanks from my side to all of you. And before I start eating along with my colleagues with the physical distance what we create at the restaurant, let me say thank you to Chef Mukherjee and all of you. Have a great day. Anything you want to ask?
Yes, Chef, there's a question. There's just one last question.
Yes, please.
There says, someone asked me, there's a lot of use of gluten in Mexican cuisine.
No, you're wrong. Gluten is not used. See, actually, corn is gluten-free. So Mexican food by its nature is gluten free. So it's in fact you have an advantage mostly. But yes, you do have dishes with flour and all. It's not that you don't have, but majorly, if you talk about tortilla, that's a great advantage we work in Mexican cuisine, wherein this is pure masa. Yeah, this is corn. Corn is gluten free. Yeah, this is this is really the best part of this cuisine. In fact, the people are enjoying. Actually, if I don't know, as a student, you guys have realized it or not, but over the time, if you eat anything which is gluten free, yeah, you will not feel that full.
True.
That's another. But of course, it's a quantity which defines it. I'm not saying that when you have rice you don't feel full, but I'm saying the quantity what you're eating, if it's equal, if you're having a wheat dish versus a rice dish, it's supposed to be much more lighter. You feel much more lighter, and in fact, it get digested very well and easily and faster.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Chef, I think that's about it. You know, it's fantastic to have somebody who's doing actual real Mexican food and not just Tex-Mex food with a lot of cheese and, you know, so-called Mexican cuisine. So it was fantastic to have you, Chef. We'd love to have you in college sometime.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. So before we end, let me share with you. I have been sharing this with all the students wherever I go. During my trip to Mexico, uh, it happened because of my mentor, Elena de la Vega. She's a very renowned chef from Mexico, Oaxaca. Oaxaca is actually, for me, is like what Amritsar is to me, because I'm born and brought up in Amritsar, because it's popular for food and you get diverse kind of vegetarian, non-vegetarian food in the city. Oaxaca is similar. Oaxaca is a den of food. So she took me there, and it was really interesting to see how the cooking is done, or see how dedicatedly this food is life for them. You know, even for us it is, but you know, it might be individually. You can say nowadays, some people live to eat and eat to live kind of a situation, where in Mexico, if you see, they're very, very hardcore food centric people. And they spend a lot of time making their preparations. And during the trip, when I met Chef Dinah Kennedy, she's a 96-year-old, very popular, legendary chef, not from Mexico, though. She's actually a UK born and moved to Mexico when she was 50, I believe. And now it's 96. And when I met her a few years back, she gave me one line which I want to share with all you students. Is basically that if you love what you do, you can do till the last day of your life. Now this has stayed with me. There was nothing unique about this line, but that line has stayed with me from that day onwards. So it wasn't only the culinary trip for me; it was also life changing. So I know in today's situation, as I said, and that's what I share with my team members also, that let's not stop doing what we do. Of course, we have to take all the precautions. So we are taking all the necessary precaution to do anything at the restaurant. Like the place where I am, there is nobody else apart from one guy. So we are taking all the possible precaution at our restaurants, and but we still are going ahead and doing the dine-in with all the recommended the guidelines, you know, following up the SOP. And I think from the students' point of view, you should surely, you know, take good care of yourself and your family. And I'm sure the times will change in few weeks, months, that we don't know. But keep hopeful and keep positive. Thank you very much from my side. And again, thank you, Chef Mukherjee, Chenmaya, and Ronald. Of course, Ronald is the one who got me here. He messaged me one day. I said, yeah, why not? I've been doing with the IHM Mumbai, but now I'm in Bangalore, so I should do with Bangalore. So lovely.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you
Chef.
very
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Chef Mukherjee,
Real,
thanks a lot. Yeah.
real pleasure, Chef. Real pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. Thank you, Chef Vikas. As I said, you know, we'd like to have you in college sometime soon. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much, Chef. I'll be ending the meeting.
Perfect.